Welcome to the unofficial ESR Academy race at Brands Hatch. And right now you're seeing that I have the rolling qualifying engaged. Oh god! Rochelle Guerin sinking into the track using magical powers. Anyways, with me for this unofficial race, because the Discord completely messed up, is Paul Riccobene. Paul, how are you doing today?
Hey yo, I'm doing very well, Michael. Should be fun to watch the unofficial round one of the Academy, the newest season starting.
Indeed. No Byron today. He's a little bit under the weather, and also I figured this would be a good chance to just talk shop, talk Academy, since the round does not officially count. Today's grid features Stuart Hemstrom, Scott Greenfield, Dixon Hurst, Justin Kratz, Douglas DeGroot, Yori Nikolai, Tobias Howard, and Rochelle Guerin, who I think just reconnected to the server, and that's why she doesn't have a time up, because she was first place. So that is today's grid. Obviously, the grid for the actual Brands Hatch race will hopefully be a fair bit larger, and I know there were a number of people who were PMing me online trying to get the password, but unfortunately, since Discord was having problems on the day that we did this race, I could not receive PMs. So we did our best, and we'll be rerunning this on Saturday. In the future, if we have this problem, we will be putting the password on Race App, so that'll be a place to get it.
That's some unfortunate bad timing from Discord.
Indeed. This is Stuart Hemstrom, our newest member, I think, in this series. He is currently in first place. And coming across the line. And here is Justin Kratz in fifth. So it is currently Hemstrom, Guerin, Greenfield, Hurst, Kratz, DeGroot, Nikolai, and Tobias Howard. Everyone's within 2 seconds of each other. That's pretty good. I mean, it's a
pretty tight grid up top.
It's a really short lap at 51 seconds, but still, everyone's pretty competitive. Hopefully, that will improve over time. Ooh, Justin Kratz goes second quickest. Nice. So, Paul,
they're looking good on the top 5 for sure. Yes, Mike.
And here comes a double purple sector for Rochelle, but not enough to get pole position within 200ths of a second off of Hemstrom's time. Very nice. I was going to say, is there anyone you're expecting big things from in the Academy this coming season? Or as a coach, are you going to abstain from making any predictions?
Nah, I have no problems throwing my thoughts out there. I got to root for my boy Scott Greenfield. He's part of Black Sheep Racing, so I have a little bit of favoritism going on there. I also think he's a good driver. I think he's going to come along nicely through this season. Other person that I think is going to be super strong is Rochelle. I happened to run a little bit of some laps while she was training with Stoffmeal, and her pace was very impressive. We've seen her in a few series before, so we know she can drive. So I think she might be a force in this particular series.
Indeed, she's not repping any teams because she's got the privateer on her name there, so I gotta get her to fix that. Not that she's part of any ESR team, so I guess
I was just gonna ask.
She can just do privateer. Yeah, well, she doesn't race in any of the series we have teams in, unfortunately. So. Obviously, those who are unaware, Rochelle has the problem of racing online that she has to go to other people's houses. So she has to lug her wheel, pedals, and computer over to someone else's house to actually race.
That is some serious dedication.
She can practice all she wants at home, because if you just do single-player practice, obviously the internet connection does not matter. As long as it's not complete ass.
Right, so she can get online, but just not fast enough to
exactly.
Race.
You'll recall when she tried to race in the 3D Speed Series 2 seasons ago in the Nissan, and when she left the pits, her car did a direct left-hand turn into the wall. Yeah, that's kind of what she gets when she's trying to play multiplayer at the residence.
Oh, she got a 14.4 modem going on there?
Well, it's more that if you live in res, you're sharing your internet with everybody else.
I see.
Rochelle Guerin does take pole position here, ran a 51.046. I was expecting to see a couple of in the 50s, but no one getting there this particular occasion. Stuart Hemstrom second, Justin Kratz, Scott Greenfield, Dixon Hurst, Douglas DeGroot, Yuri Nikolai, and Tobias Howard, your starting grid.
I have a feeling we'll see some 50s by the end of the races today.
I will confirm that there will be a handful of 50s, but not too many. Mind you, admittedly, some of our fastest drivers are not here today. Both Gustav Ekstrom and James Butler are, of course, missing. They are our ballasted drivers. One ballast spot's still open, actually, by the way, for the other Academy graduates. You can get back in if you want. Although this offer does not extend it to the likes of Josiah Jerome and Christopher Streppen, who would just absolutely drum the field.
Yeah, I don't think Race Room has enough ballast for those gentlemen to join the Academy.
In the right car it would, but these cars are very hard to affect with ballast because they're relatively low horsepower to weight ratio, and that means you need exponentially more ballast to actually slow them down. But when it comes down to it, we will... Oh, someone is starting from the pit lane. I think that's Yuri Nikolai. Anyways, red lights, red lights, red lights.
Seems like a bad choice for race one.
Off. I think he may have been away from his PC. And it is Rochelle Guerin who gets the best off the line and will lead into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Justin Kratz is third. Stuart Hemstrom up there, as well as Scott Greenfield. And Douglas DeGroot rounding off the top five in the yellow and kind of the middle-ish gray car, which actually looks pretty nice.
Yeah, I can't tell you how happy I am to see that everybody made it through turns 1 and 2 there with zero contact. That's
no
good.
Contact through Paddock Hill or Druids, which of course Druids we saw, I think, in the DTM race, a fair amount of contact actually.
Yeah, everybody tries to jam it in there.
We'll see if the Academy crew can be a little bit better. Here they are through Clark Curve. For the record, the area which is normally like Surtees and Clearways, I'm just calling that McLaren because to call that Surtees and Clearways is, I think, an insult to those two fine corners. Because you're not getting the full corner here because this is the Brands Hatch Mini layout, not the Grand Prix layout.
Whoop! Somebody's taking a long way.
Scott Greenfield exploring the outside of Paddock Hill Bend there. Justin Kratz is staying nicely with this battle. He's in a great position if Hemstrom and Guerin come to blows to possibly take the race. Today we got three. Oh, that is someone up ahead. I'm assuming it's Yuri Nikolai. Hemstrom went down the inside of Grand Hill Bend and has taken the lead briefly. But into Clark Curve, Guerin has gotten it back. So good work by Rochelle Guerin. And good work by Stuart to get past as well.
Yeah, great driving on these two.
This track does not have a ton of great overtaking opportunities. In fact, Hemstrom is back in front. Oh, Yuri Nikolai's in the pit lane. A little banging of the doors there between Guerin and Hemstrom. And Hemstrom will lead into Paddock Hill Bend. Can he hold it? The answer is yes. I think if you have the inside line through Paddock Hill Bend, there's really no excuse to let anyone get a run on you, to be honest.
Yeah, if you can carry the inside line, it's all but a lock on that. But I mean, I'm really impressed so far with the awareness that everybody's showing.
Everybody's keeping up pretty well, except for Yuri Nikolai, who I saw duck into the pit lane again with no front end. So it looks like he headbutted something that didn't agree with him. So I would say the Dutch driver is now somewhat of a non-factor, which is odd for a Dutch driver in ESR.
We know how those Dutch can drive.
There he is rejoining the race in the blue and black car. Coming out of the pit lane now. And
he's definitely missing some parts.
Well, he's presumably got his parts now. But he was missing parts before. So... Whoa, Scott! Scott, that is not the track!
I had to talk to my boy.
Scott Greenfield having some troubles with Paddock Hill Bend. That is for sure off the track again. And looks like he's managed to rejoin in the same spot. Oh no, he's lost a spot to... that's Yuri Nikolai and Justin Kratz off the track. That's going to knock Kratz off the podium and promote Douglas DeGroot to the podium position. There is Tobias Howard, a veteran ESR racing. Good to see him participating in the Academy once again on the tail of his Rough Rider teammate in the 3D Speed Series, Dixon Hurst. These two have had some run-ins where they've been teammates, so hopefully they stay out of each other here today.
I'm sure that would be nice for these guys to not contact each other.
So talk to us a little bit about this track, Paul, since these guys are going to get another crack at it on Saturday. What are the keys in your mind to success here at the Brands Hatch Open track?
Paddock Hill, right? I mean, turn one, it's an incredibly tricky track to get right. I think most guys will set up too far to the left, and then when they're on the brakes, the track actually vanishes on them because it curves to the right under braking. So I think your entrance into Paddock Hill and then making sure that you can get onto the throttle as early as possible down the hill. You can find a ton of time. Druids, you get in there, turn it back on the throttle early. And then that final sector, I think, is super tricky because you're coming through, you should be coming through, I don't know the names for the turns, but that fast left-hander, which they'll be coming to in a second.
That would be what I'm just terming as McLaren's. It's technically Surtees into
so
McLaren into clear
not
ways.
Here, this coming left-hander, you should be full throttle going through there, but the car doesn't want to turn. So you're fighting the car the whole time to throw it through here full throttle, back to the right hard, and then, on the brakes, really hard to get it turned in here. It's so easy to overshoot this corner and just lose a ton of time.
Very much agree with that. And of course, Paddock Hill Bend is probably your best overtaking opportunity because from what I've seen, it's the most variable lines I've seen into a turn. And as a result, you can force a mistake out of people pretty easily. Scott Greenfield, by the way, back up into 4th place. Let's see if he gets Paddock Hill right this time around. We've seen him have some problems.
It's a little bit better.
That is better. And he's closing in on Douglas DeGroot, while Rochelle Guerin is on the hunt for Stuart Hemstrom.
What I think most people do is they'll actually turn in too early into Paddock, and then you want to get on the throttle, but the only place to go at that point is into the sand trap across the track. So I think that's why that corner is so tricky.
I was actually on the server with John Picha for commentary here. Wasn't doing a coaching session or anything, just happened to see him on there and popped in to take a look. He was definitely having some problems with Paddock Hill Bend, so hopefully he can master that before the race on Saturday.
And what if he wants to run any laps? Yell at John. We're usually around. Somebody can jump in with you.
We have a number of very solid, dedicated coaches, such as Paul here, Mike Stockmill, Travis Wallace, Martin Emmons will hop in if need be. If you get really desperate, I'll do it, but if you don't want me,
that's pure desperation at that point.
I did not really have the ability to advise you how to go fast. That would involve me figuring out how to go fast myself.
There's plenty of guys who can help even if they're not the fastest, Coaching and driving are two different things.
Well, it's more that there's more to driving than simply pace. Oh, speaking of which, Scott Greenfield is going for the move here. I don't really know if he's going for the move or if Douglas DeGroot just made a mistake.
I wish they would have stayed with that. I was curious to see how that went down.
It is very close here at the front, though, with the lapped car of Yuri Nikolai getting out of the way. And that has set up a run, though, for Rochelle Guerin to the inside there.
So that does bring up a point that I've seen in some series, though, and I just want to mention to the Academy drivers, actually exiting the track is not the ideal way to avoid blue flag traffic.
Absolutely not, although looking at the body language of Yuri's car, I'm suspecting he's experiencing some crabbing, and we know from his pit stop earlier that car is not healthy.
I agree. It's something I've seen from multiple drivers, and just figured I'd bring it up since we were talking Academy stuff.
Absolutely.
Do not leave the track, guys. Stay on your line. Wait for a straight and just back out of the throttle. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. That's perfect. I mean, if you do find yourself having to let someone through a turn, go wide or whatever. But you shouldn't have to. If the guy behind you can't complete a blue flag overtake without forcing you off the track, that's a sign of their lack of technique.
Agreed. Agreed. You should not have to really change your line. If you do, that's when actually trouble starts, because the guy behind's probably looking for the opening, and if you change your line, that's when there's going to be contact.
It's always that kind of weird negotiation between lead car and lapped cars to, what everyone's actually expecting to happen.
Yeah, and I've been there too. You try and let somebody go, and you're thinking, oh, I'll just duck over here real quick, and meanwhile they're thinking, well, I'm going to fly over there real quick. So things can go bad very quickly. Just stay on the line, back out on the straight.
Put in a 51.060, which is very close to her pole time, so she might crack the 51 second in this race, but she is stuck behind Hemstrom now. It seems like she's the faster of the two, but has not found a way around Stewart yet. And I would have to see what Stewart's lap times are to actually know if she's quicker, but it does seem like she's getting closer and closer, and then just backs off or makes a move and it doesn't really pay off. I also know that the left front on these cars gets very hot, and that can obviously be a bit of a problem if you're following close behind something.
Yeah, when I was running some laps, I was melting the front left, like you said. It's not good on this big, heavy BMW for sure.
I don't find that it actually experiences a tremendous amount of wear, ironically, probably because it's a very hard rubber, would be my guess. But yeah, the heat definitely compromises its grip level and its performance. Because of course, as everyone knows, tires are meant to function within a certain window of temperature, and if you are too cold or too hot, you're going to start getting adverse performance.
These two are driving very well up front, though.
Well, I think Brands Hatch lends itself to relatively clean driving. I say every time I compliment this circuit, a part of me dies because I don't really like it. But
it's a shame too, because the full Brands is probably one of the most fun tracks out there.
I don't know. I've never been a big fan of the full Brands either, to be honest. But yeah, the Indy lends itself to good driving because there's not a lot of overtaking zones, so there's not a lot of what I call temptation to go for it. You'll find that with, if you just look at our stewards reports, for example, in ESR, it's a lot of people see an opening, and that opening's always going to close. They go for it, and they hit them, and then they get a penalty. Here, there's not a lot of really false openings to get.
Yeah, just Drew is really, if you have a decent run, you can sort of try and stuff it, but that's the only corner I think that matches what you're talking about.
Maybe Graham Hill. I've seen just like maybe it's the academy drivers taking some different lines, but there are some people that are very wide in Graham Hill, and there's some people that are very tight in Graham Hill. And that leads to some level of an opening. But yeah, there's not a lot of that. It makes a driver a little bit impatient. Like, it feels like the opportunity you get, you got to take advantage of it. So there is that kind of over-aggression. But there's not a lot of like constantly going for moves that are just not really there, which is nice. Rochelle continues to trail.
Yeah, she's hunting.
She is hunting. No one else really fighting, so I think the camera's going to stick with these guys for a while. Scott Greenfield is well behind this group, with a decent lead over Douglas DeGroot and Dixon Hurst. Justin Kratz is kind of running his own race right now in 6th, and Tobias Howard is a ways off of that. And of course, Yuri Nikolai is not even really a factor. And it's not meant as an insult to Mr. Yuri Nikolai, but he had the start from the pit lane and obviously had some problems with damaging the car. And that has taken him out of the equation. Bright side for him. Pole position in race 2, I think, is probably his.
Always looking on the bright side.
Because this is a top 10 reverse grid. Obviously, we weren't intending to have just 8 cars. We were expecting 12. But that is where we get with the Discord problem.
Is this a lock setup, or did you guys open the setup for this?
This is an open setup. This is open setup, but to be honest, the BMW 235i's, which are being raced here, are not very setup dependent cars. There's not a lot that can be done but we can instruct people on some basic setup stuff as the season goes on to perhaps help them out. But
whoa! Look at Rochelle throwing that around.
Yeah, lost a lot of ground there, though. She's over a second behind now.
That's exactly what I was talking about. When you come in too hot, and you can see how much time you lose.
It's keeping Stuart Hemstrom. Hemstrom, apparently a buddy of Max Simons. So, good racing pedigree right there. I'm sure Max will be giving him some instruction over the course of the season.
Got some speed for sure, Max. No question about that.
Needs a little wheel-to-wheel season.
Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
I see he got himself some penalties with some incidents with you in the DTM race.
Yeah, you know, look, he was trying to... DTM is very aggressive driving, shall I say. And there was four of us. It was a four-way battle. It was super fun, and he was just trying to find the openings, but, you know, sometimes it's just not there.
That is very true. All right, we're on the final lap here as time is clocking down. She's off. Somebody in the wall there. That is Douglas DeGroot, I think. So he is out of 4th place and hasn't gotten the car going yet. I do hope that he's not absolutely down.
He's not going for pole, is he?
Well, he can't get it because Yuri Nikolai's 5 laps down. It's not going to happen. All right, looks like he is going now because he is closing the gap. No?
Oh, Rochelle closed the gap up pretty quick.
Yeah, she's definitely got the pace, but she's not going to get it done today. Stuart Hemstrom is your Race 1 winner, ahead of Rochelle Guerin and Scott Greenfield. I have to say, Scott, a little bit lucky to be taking home the podium here. We saw him go off the track a couple of times at Paddock Hill Bend, and kind of got a couple of mistakes from other people to secure the podium.
Yeah, he definitely luck was on his side. We'll say that. With 3 trips, I think, through the sand trap.
At least that we saw. Dixon Hurst and Justin Kratz round off the top 5. Justin with a 51.8 there, and there is Toby Howard coming across the line.
Toby
in 6th place, and Douglas DeGroot and Yuri Nikolai will DNF the race. Shame for Douglas. He had 1.5 laps to go maybe there, and I don't know if the car just wouldn't go. Fastest lap to Rochelle with a 51.0. Hemstrom only at a 51.3, so taking the win despite not having the faster car, that is for sure.
That's good drive, and he kept it clean the whole race, didn't give her any openings, and did what he needed to do.
And he got past her because, of course, she out-qualified him, and he got the job done. So it will be a front row of Yuri Nikolai and Douglas DeGroot here for race number 2.
This will be interesting reverse grid. Looked like Greenfield, Kratz, and DeGroot were all basically running the same pace, like a high 51s. So this should be interesting.
I think Dixon Hurst was in there as well. So
was he?
He was, I think, a low 52. But I think he can mix it up with that group as well.
I think so. It should be fun.
We are waiting on Scott. Oh, there's Scott joining the grid, and we are ready to go. Here we go. Red lights, red lights. Oh, Dixon Hurst dropping to the pit lane. I don't know what happened there, but that's going to end his race. So, bit of a foolish move, unless maybe real life called or something. Worth asking the question. Rory Nikolai is in the lead here early on. Trail by Tobias Howard. Oh,
somebody.
A little bit of contact. Messy. So, surviving that contact, Yuri Nikolai leads Tobias Howard. Rochelle Guerin's up to 3rd already, ahead of Stuart Hemstrom and Scott Greenfield. Justin Kratz and Douglas DeGroot are off the back end of this, and DeGroot appears to not be moving, so I wonder if his car has once again developed a terminal problem.
Oh, that's some bad luck. Is DeGroot in the dark gray car?
He is in the yellow.
Yeah, it looks like he may have lost it down Paddock Hill. And then ended up into Kratz.
We'll find out shortly because they are, in theory, coming up to where his car is currently. See it. So he might be in the pit lane. So Yuri Nikolai leads with Rochelle Guerin. Toby Howard has lost spots to Guerin and Hemstrom, dropping back to 4th. He has Scott Greenfield on his tail. And Yuri Nikolai losing the lead to Rochelle Guerin. So the fast lady has hit the front of the track, and here she goes.
That didn't take long.
See how quickly Stuart Hemstrom can get up onto Yuri Nikolai and see if he can go for I'm thinking not very long there as Nikolai gets very wide through Jim Clark curve, and that is going to let Hemstrom up into 2nd place and Toby Howard to 3rd place.
Nice.
Scott Greenfield going side by side with Yuri Nikolai, looking to make it 4th place for the Canadian. And he has got the job done. We, of course, have lost Dixon Hurst, and it looks like we've lost Douglas Root as well. So that leaves us with just 6 cars. Justin Kratz is the last running car. He is contact between Nikolai and Greenfield
yeah.
there. And Nikolai having some trouble with Graham Hill Bend. I think that's the 2nd time we've seen him very off at Graham Hill Bend.
Yeah, we definitely saw him go up there and race one. I'm trying to figure out what happened there at Druids. It looked like I'm not sure who was more aggressive on that.
I would say Greenfield is the aggressor in the sense that he's the one going for the overtake there, getting side by side. And I don't necessarily blame him because we've been talking about how Brands Hatch has so few overtaking opportunities that you really, really want to go for the ones that you get presented. But I think maybe he was forcing the issue a little bit there.
That's a shame either way for both of those guys.
We'll have to see what Justin Kratz can do now that he is on the tail of Yuri Nikolai. And of course, the longer Nikolai holds people up, the better it is for Tobias Howard, who's up in 3rd place.
Nikolai's taking an interesting line through there.
That's not the track there. It's not how that's meant to be done. But in fairness, this is the Academy. We will see some, I'm sure we will see some oddities throughout the races.
Absolutely, here to learn, right?
Wasn't under a particularly large amount of pressure there, though, so that is a little concerning. Maybe
well, I think he did that on lap 1 or 2 as well. That's how Hemstrom got by him. So I think he might be having trouble getting the car. As I said, that's that corner if you're taking it full throttle. This BMW does not want to turn left. So he may just need to back out of the throttle as he turns the car in.
Yeah, I mean, it is a full throttle turn, but if you can't do it legally, then you definitely want to do it. Got through that time.
Yeah, the trick is you got to turn in earlier than you think. If you're trying to make that hard left, it's not going to happen. You almost need to aim for the inside grass.
That is what I do. Not that you should duplicate my driving. Stuart Hemstrom has caught up to Rochelle Guerin and is putting the pressure on. So
yeah, she had a 1.3 second lead at one point.
Must have made a bit of a mistake. I'm going to bet perhaps through Paddock Hill Bend being probably the most likely area.
It's a safe call.
She does have that very, very popular purple and white car that everyone seems to like.
Did she get first dibs on it?
She was one of the first sign-ups, but I do believe like 5 people have tried to register with that car. It's a bit weird.
That's very surprising.
Because I mean, it's don't get me wrong, it's a cool-looking car. It stands out a little bit, but it is weird that we have it's so popular.
Well, everybody loves a white car, you know that.
Was, of course, the car that Sarah
Sarah
Hunty raced it last season before her.
And I believe last season there was also a few people trying to grab it.
Well, the season before that, it was the Audi TTs that were running as opposed to these cars. Which I do miss the Audi TTs. Kratz is up now, pretty much side by side with Nikolai, trying to go through Graham Hill Bend here. We'll see if he sets up for a run, possibly down the Cooper Straight into McLaren's. No, just gonna follow him for now. Very tight on that second part there for Nikolai, and a bit of a mistake there in the Jim Clark curb.
Still got the drive out of it, though.
See, he did, but that was a good opportunity there for Justin Kratz, and one that he may regret not taking.
Nikolai appears to just be on the limit at all times.
Has a little bit of Christoph Verstappen in him.
Yeah, he just needs to back it down a little bit and find some smoothness, from what I'm seeing, and I think he'll actually find some time.
Quite possible. It's not really a sustainable idea to be pushing 100% of the time. That's something that a lot of sim racers make a bit of a mistake on.
I agree 100% with that. And ironically, when you back off and you just sort of find your rhythm, you actually usually go faster. It's a very strange situation that happens. When you stop just trying to brake as late as possible, as hard as possible, and you just get into a flow, everything starts happening naturally.
Indeed. Getting into that flow zone is underrated. Sounds like we're talking about meditation or yoga or something.
It does.
Definitely is a thing.
if you're going to race, you got to get into that zone. And, you definitely need to just find your comfort zone, no matter what the pace is, and focus on consistency first.
Absolutely. Consistency is its own pace, frankly. It's all great if you can go out there and put up an amazing lap, but if you can't replicate that lap, what is it really worth in the long run of a race?
Well, we all know those guys that can throw down some blazingly fast laps, and they never finish a race.
Or they always have some kind of event in the race that hinders their ability to get the race position that they probably have pace-wise.
Yep.
Agree. At some point, both Kratz and Greenfield have overtaken Nikolai, and judging by the gap, I'm suspecting he made a mistake.
Toby Howard in third.
Toby in third. Go Toby. Toby will forever be a sentimental favorite.
Absolutely.
Him and if he returns, Federico Svanger.
Oh, he's not in this season, huh?
Has not registered. I don't think the time really works well for him. Is I think what it comes down to. Unfortunately, this is the problem of working with an intercontinental community, is finding a time that really works for everyone without having to make sacrifice. A little bit of a mistake there by
Scott joining the drifting team.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Academy doesn't have a larger interest rate from some drivers.
I mean, there is a lot of interest in the Academy. The only problem is a lot of the people that have been interested in it have been kind of above what we're looking for. They're guys who are like pretty solid, like Max Simmons, for example.
Verstappen and
well, you know what? Verstappen, when he came knocking, was pretty much an Academy kind of ballpark guy. He really, and he can correct me if I'm misspeaking here, but it seemed like he learned a lot really quickly from the Academy and got up to a pretty good pace. Although still has that what we were talking about there with Yuri Nikolai and why I compared him to Verstappen. He still does have a little bit of that push 100% of the time mentality. He probably needs to take a little step back from. He'll probably find when he gets into less incidents.
Yeah, possibly. I'm just trying to think. There's definitely a couple of very fast guys that were once in the Academy. You got Verstappen, Jerome.
Joe Racer.
There you go, Joe. He's picked up the pace considerably.
We've had Andrew D in the Academy. He's doing gangbusters in Aquila's, by the way. Andrew D. So shout out to him. Hasn't gotten involved in a lot of tin top series, so he might be one of those kind of specialist breed of drivers where they're really quick in some cars but don't quite have it in others. Let's see about that. Wayne Hutchinson.
Oh yeah, Wayne can drive.
also had like Nathan Edward, Adele, the Ficali sisters. Hopefully we see them again. Haven't seen them in a while.
No, I haven't. The whole concept of this academy is great, though. You know, taking out the guys that are just, I guess, Division 1, just letting these guys learn and drive together and get as much track time. It's really good for them.
The kind of lower end of Division 3 drivers. These would be to use the FIA grading system. This is the bronze category guys. Trying to bring them up, trying to improve them, and I hope we see a lot of improvement over the course of the season. Where this is kind of giving us a benchmark for some of these people, and we'll have to see if they get better. We're also going to do a second run through the tracks this season in the academy, so we'll be back at Brands Hatch. We're going to get like a second shot of it, and you can see the literal delta of improvement, which will be nice.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. In fact, they're going to have a third shot at Brands.
Yeah, that's true. Mind you, a number of people missing here today. We would have had Vic Nash on the grid. We would have had James Butler. We would have had who was the other one who was desperately trying to get the password from the camera call now. But there were 3 people that we had the timestamps and everything to prove that they 100% would have been here had Discord not been throwing a tantrum.
That's so frustrating.
I assume Gustav Ekstrom would have been here as well because, of course, the way his schedule works, this is the only series with ESR didn't do, which is a bit disappointing. As Justin Kratz is hunting down Tobias Howard here. They're 2 good buddies in real life, actually, so this should be a good friendly battle.
Oh, that's awesome. I was just going to say, you can see he's trying to close this gap up before this. He's only got 2 minutes left.
2 minutes, though, is another, 3 laps, probably, with how short the circuit is. But, could be a podium for Tobias Howard, could be a podium for Justin Kratz, so let's see what happens here. Scott Greenfield, of course, hoping that maybe something behows both of them and he can get his podium back.
Yeah, right. I wonder what time Toby's running. 51.8 from Justin. Toby's got to be in the low to mid 52s, I'm thinking.
I would think so, based on how the gap is. Oh no, Toby is off. Come on, Toby, get back. But you've given up the inside line into Druids, and Kratz is through onto the podium.
It's a shame. I think he would have held them off. I think his pace is good enough.
I think it was, actually. But there's your answer, 52.6. As fast as that.
I think he would have taken 3rd place if not for that off track.
Might have. I don't think he's going to be coming back here in the last 2 laps. Unfortunately, Kratz being about a second faster a lap. That's you can hold people off being 8/10 slower than them, but I don't think you can catch them.
Exactly.
And I've always said it again. I would put this out to any academy driver, or just really almost anyone in general. People ask me because I've got that reputation of being annoying as hell to pass. Me and Joe Racer were having a good talk about it after the Aquila race, actually. I was wrong, for the record. I was accusing him of a track cut, which, looking at the replay, he did not do. But it was very close. But honestly, if you can just drive a consistent racing line, you're very hard to overtake. You don't have to weave around or even be particularly fast or anything. Just get into a good groove, and a lot of people are not great at overtaking offline.
Yeah, it's so true. A lot of times I think people are way too quick to go into a defensive line. Just keep driving.
And it's a timing thing as well, I think. Not really sure why we're on Gory Nikolai. He did a 52.8, so he's not too far off the pace. He's about 2/10 off of Toby. So if he can just stick to the track, he could be a potential factor here in the upcoming race. Pole position will go to Dixon Hurst for race 3, and we'll be with you on that shortly as everyone's just finishing up here. I don't think any of these positions are going to change hands.
No, I think it's pretty safe at this point.
Pratt's on the podium. Toby's done. Greenfield is done. And the last man is that man, Yuri Nikolai. Hey, there we are. 50.9 from Rochelle Guerin, and she takes race number 2.
All right. Congrats. The lap times are looking pretty good. Pretty solid across.
Definitely. We're talking only about a second and a half from the... that
was interesting.
That's an interesting... I'm going to guess lag.
Yeah. It'd be great if we get all 8 cars on the starting grid this time.
I think we've lost Douglas DeGroot. His car vanished. If I recall correctly, he did disconnect from the server, so I'm wondering if he ran into some technical issues. So we are down to 7 cars here for race number 3. My man to watch in this third race, though, might be Scott Greenfield. He's going to be starting from P3, which, given that he was the third fastest guy in both races, that should be a fairly good advantage for him.
I would think so. We know he's got pace. He's just got to get a good start and, like I said, find that groove, right? I mean, we've got 2 warm-up races.
Yeah, and I rate pole sitter Dixon Hurst quite highly, to be honest. I think he's one of the kind of underdog dark horses in the academy. Greenfield got off to a pretty terrible start there and has lost a spot to Toby Howard, though, dropping back to 4th place. A little side-by-side nudging between Yuri Nikolai and Dixon Hurst, and Nikolai is going to get the lead off of this as Hurst was very offline into Druids. And that is Stuart Hemstrom already up in 2nd place. Having a fantastic third race here as
Toby's in the grass.
Toby is in the grass and in the wall. Hemstrom to the lead. So Yuri Nikolai in 2nd, Greenfield 3rd, Hurst, and then Guerin. That is your top 5. Kratz is a little bit further back. He was involved in an incident with Toby Howard. Not sure whose fault that was. But it has delayed him a little bit, and he's dropped off the back of the top 5. Now the question is, can anyone catch Hemstrom? Can anyone catch Hemstrom, particularly if Guerin can't make her way through the traffic here?
I'm not sure. I can see Nikolai was trying to follow his lines, but he overcooked it into Paddock Hill and lost it at that point.
I was suggesting that Guerin might not make it through traffic, and she just overtook both Dixon Hurst and Yuri Nikolai there. So
yeah, that was an impressive series of overtakes right there.
So she is up to 3rd place now. Next on her checklist is Scott Greenfield.
She is, she's moving quick.
Well, Yuri a little, that's a wall. Paddock Hill Bend claims another victim.
Luckily that BMW doesn't seem to take much damage, so he's okay.
It's a very robust car, and it's also the fact that it's very aerodynamically, Guerin! I wonder if there was a little bit of side-by-side banging with Scott Greenfield there. In fact, I know there was.
Looks like they tried to go too wide through there, which is a very tough decision.
Yeah, I put that down to more or less just a racing incident. I thought it was 50-50. Scott did ask me for my opinion on it, and I gave it. I thought she was being a little bit too optimistic with her overtake attempt. But I did notice this as just like Scott's general line. He's kind of wide into Graham Hill Bend. So if you recall, I was talking about how like sometimes drivers will give like that false opportunity, that temptation, and I think the way that Scott does drive tends to leave a little bit of that in play.
Well, you'd want to set up as wide as possible for the fastest line, right? I mean,
true, but if you have a car right behind you,
you maybe tighten it up a little bit.
Sniff. Try and get through. Either that, or you can also use that like as a feint. Like you can feint someone in trying to go for it, and then make them overshoot the corner, and then you take them on the cutback. So there's a lot of games you can play with that. But,
I think that's the safer move in a corner like that, because even if you do successfully get your car in that inside line at the apex there, you have to think of where the car is going to head. And there's not a lot of room on the exit.
Well, that's kind of what I mean, is you got to be aware of where the other car is, though. And I think that was like kind of the thing. He went for the apex, she was going for the apex, and boom. Cars.
Yep. Hopefully everybody in the Academy has their radars on.
Absolutely. If you're not using the crew chief or web dash, I highly recommend you do. If you don't know how to enable that, please let somebody know. They'll happily walk you through it or whatever. Everyone uses kind of a little bit of a different variety of web dash, but they all do essentially the same thing. Various ones have features that others don't, or are a little bit more process intensive or whatever. But it definitely does help out a lot with not just driving, it helps out with fuel calculations, knowing more around you on the track. You can even get lap times of other cars for some variants, so it's nice.
Yep, all that good information. If nothing else, keep that radar nice and large right in the middle of your screen. That's where I keep mine, at least. I know some people like to keep it on the side, but I like it right in the middle of my phone, so I never miss it.
Personally, I have it right by my steering wheel. So that's where I found that it is the best. But obviously, personal preferences in this one. Dixon Hurst is now under pressure from Rochelle, and she's got the inside line here into Jim Clark Curve to the start-finish straight, and then she's going to have the inside line to Paddock Hill Bend, which we talked about earlier is probably going to get her the position, and Dixon tried to hang it around the outside, and it didn't work out too well.
Yeah, he tried to outbrake her, and unfortunately that is not a late braking corner.
Yeah, sometimes guys, you just got to know when you've lost the corner.
Absolutely.
That was the case there.
Instead of losing, a couple of tenths and being a place behind, he's now trying to straighten the car out.
And he's lost spots to Justin Kratz and to Yuri Nikolai. So, I see Tobias Howard has fallen a lap down, so I wonder if Toby is done. Very disappointing.
Michelle's looking at Scott again.
It's round 2, Guerin versus Greenfield. Shout out to Scott, of course, Middle Eastern-based racer.
Scott.
Is that like the 4th time he's gotten Paddock Hill wrong?
We're going to have a little chat.
I think we found the key area of improvement, Scott. I got good news for you. We know exactly what you need to improve.
Yeah, we don't need to look at the possible issues.
Not a bad lap, though, 51.8. So,
oh,
no.
Oh, we have somebody else over here hanging out.
That's Dixon Hurst, who is dug in, unfortunately. And Toby is still running because he's unlapped himself from Hurst, so it looks like maybe he made a pit stop to fix something, as opposed to being out of the race. So, good to see Toby still running. And again, I would encourage all Academy drivers, just because you get a little bit of damage or whatever, keep running. Like, number one, particularly in a race like this where everyone is scoring points and you just have to finish to score points, I mean, that in itself is a reason. But number two, you can learn things about the track even if your car is damaged.
Absolutely. Even if you're getting the lap, sometimes you get behind a car that's a little bit faster and you just follow along and learn. Pick some stuff up.
Absolutely.
Drive every minute you can.
I've learned. I was talking to my friend. There is Dixon rejoining, so it looks like he had some lasting damage. That is Tobias Howard, who is in front of the race leader Stuart Hemstrom. No rush to particularly obey the yellow or the blue flags on this one. I think he's got about a 6.9 to 7-second lead, so shouldn't be in too much of a hurry. For the record, everyone, you do get 3 waves of the blue flag before you have to give away. Something that I think is often forgotten. But I would say that my policy when it comes to blue flags is I'm gonna let you go the first opportunity that I get to, just lift off a little bit, which is I can follow.
Seriously, that's exactly the right thing to do. First, safe opportunity, let off the gas a little bit, let them by, and then you get right in their toe.
But note you use the word safe there, and that's the key. It's no rush. You do it safely, where you compromise your line as little as possible, and you compromise the speed of the guy behind you as little as possible. There's that nice sweet spot. Justin Kratz on the tail of Scott Greenfield. Not that we should have a lot of blue flagging in the Academy, of course, these are 15-minute races. Although we are using very short tracks, so we may see something.
Yeah, 51 seconds is short for sure.
Well, this is the shortest one. I think our other laps are going to be over a bit, but we have gone with the shortest selection of the tracks in question.
So these two seem like they have pretty similar paces, I believe, right?
I would
High
say
51s,
so.
low 52s?
Yeah, pretty much. Justin fastest lap there at 52.1. He did a 51.7 in race 2, so he's got a little bit more pace than that. And Scott's been pretty consistently about 52.8 for fastest lap, so yeah, probably only about a tenth in it. Had Dixon Hurst not had his problems, I think he may have also been in this scrap for third as well.
You had any idea what happened?
Well, he was kind of beached outside of Jim Clark Curve, so I imagine he overcooked it and maybe hit that. Well, it's coming up right here. This little barrier here.
Right.
Maybe
that makes sense.
Maybe made contact with that, which I did when I was practicing earlier, so it could happen.
Just testing out all the possibilities, right?
Not going to say it can happen to the best of us, because I'm certainly not the best of us, but it can happen. Keeping an eye on the gap between Guerin and Hemstrom, it is shrinking, but it's not shrinking fast enough, I think, to really
4 minutes,
make it a storyline.
6.5 seconds, yeah. But we've seen Paddock Hill. I mean,
we have seen Paddock Hill.
We've seen mistake.
We've seen some mistakes at Jim Clark Curve as well. So I mean, it definitely could. One big mistake could change a huge amount.
And I'll tell you one thing that makes mistakes very simple is leading a race and watching the time of the car behind you.
Mm-hmm.
It is the worst thing you can do while driving.
Absolutely. Well, and that goes for any position, to be honest. But yeah, the temptation is a lot more there when you're leading. It's why I actually don't really enjoy leading okay, when I say a lot, I mean that maybe 5 to 10 second range where you're not immediately under pressure, but you're not safe enough that you can just kind of forget about the car behind you.
It's the worst because you're still trying to push, 97, 98%. You don't want to bin it, but you don't want to let them pick up any time. You start just watching the gap. Next thing you know, you look at the wrong time and you end up off track in the grass doing something stupid.
Toby Howard getting out of the way nicely. By the way, that's a good job of obeying blue flags there from Toby. He moves off the racing line, but not by too much, and he's still streamed up for a pretty recent run for Paddock Hill Bend.
It's as simple as that. And he kept himself close enough where he can follow along these guys for a lap or two now.
Absolutely. And if this were a more stream-sensitive car, he'd be in this roll, which is always nice. Although, from what I've been able to ascertain, these BMWs don't really take a stream, so to speak. There's not really a lot of slipstreaming.
Nah, it's like driving a brick.
Unfortunately. This was the car in the starter pack that just kind of fit what we're doing. We're thinking about maybe doing GT3s next semester. That might open up some things that we're talking about these cars being lacking in. It brings slipstreaming into play, a little bit more car setup into play. So that's something that we're maybe looking at in
Interesting. I wish there was an MX-5. That would be
nice. Like, I mean, there's a couple of like cars in real life that definitely would fit this very well. Rochelle is taking 2 seconds out of Hemstrom, but still has about 4.5 to go and only 2 laps to do it. I just don't think she's gonna have the time. Also looks like she made a mistake there because she's drifted out 5 seconds away. Or now it's closing. Now it's I don't know.
Could be section of the track.
Could be. Could be the yo-yo effect going on. But
yeah, Kratz is looking for a way by. He's looking hard.
He is looking hard, and we know Greenfield's made a couple of mistakes in the paddock hill.
Looks like he's got to do one more lap. 1.5 laps.
If I'm Justin Kratz, I'm just kind of waiting for. I'm just putting the pressure on and waiting for paddock hill, to be honest.
Yeah, if he can get a good drive out of that last corner, he could easily pressure Greenfield. Looks like.
Toby off a little bit in the background. Toby's stuck with these guys actually pretty well up until the off there.
Looks like Scott's got a large enough gap to not be stressed.
And this should be the final lap, would be my guess here. But they already get. Yep, there's the checkered flag, so we're on the final. So that is Yuri Nikolai being lapped by Rochelle Guerin is on the charge, but will come up short here today. And Dixon Hurst off the track there. There we are. We are done, I think. Yeah, I think so.
So confusing.
Well, that's the thing with the short ass laps is it's over before you really know it. And indeed, I would say that is a slow down posture for Toby Howard. So we're waiting for somebody to finish, but it is not Toby. I imagine perhaps Yuri Nikolai is still going. Full trot. Stuart Hemstrom with 2 victories, race 1 and race 3. Congratulations to him. Probably a little bummed that that it didn't count.
yeah, I can see him being a little sour about that.
Rochelle Guerin completes the hat trick on fastest lap, but I mean, there's kind of what I was getting at about the single lap speed. She had the fastest lap at all 3 races, but only won one of them.
Well, we saw her get into Greenfield in race 3, right? So that set her back, and wish she had to close a gap of 6 seconds. She possibly could have done that.
I think it was like 8 seconds at one point.
Right, I'm just saying she is 6 seconds behind, so I think she could have closed that gap or at least made a race out of it if it wasn't for the contact. Probably.
But there it is. One contact can make it. Oh, you know what? This is why it ended so quickly. You see how it's 1 lap down for everybody? The race after time, I think, expired as opposed to getting to the finish line to finish the race. So there is that. So that was the unofficial Academy round, the warm-up, so to speak. Anything you'd like to add for the drivers who were here to give them, like, I guess, that little extra value content for being good people and showing up?
Jeez, I'm trying to think now. You put me on the spot here. I thought everybody did a good job driving. I think the one thing I would say is, try and hook up with a coach, guys. Even if you can find an hour, you can run a few laps. We can definitely help you find a few tenths here and there. It all adds up.
Or at the very least, do a recording of yourself doing the lap. And if for whatever reason there's no coach that really works time frame with you, which is entirely possible, they can at the very least review that for you and give you some tips and pointers off of that.
Absolutely. Anything, ask questions. Just the more active you are in the learning process, I think the quicker you pick it up, and then you can get to the front of the academy group and move on.
Absolutely. We've seen a couple of people graduate from the academy and go on to do really good things within ESR right now. We mentioned Josiah Jerome and Christoph Verstreppen while we were there talking earlier. Of course, Nathan Edward, although he's been a little bit inactive lately. But I've noticed he's been popping into Discord a lot more lately. So I think he's probably due for a comeback. And,
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we're the focus, like we said, is the complete package, the complete toolbox of a driver. We're going to make you faster, but we're also going to teach you to race safely, do side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel combat without taking each other out. Not to say that you're going to 100% of the time be able to do that, because there is I don't think anyone in ESR with a proper amount of races that has no penalties in their career. They do happen, but we're going to try and keep them to a minimum. And we're going to talk about, a little bit about setting up the car. Like we said, the BMW's not a great car for setup, but there are some little things you can learn off of it.
Yeah, in my opinion, setup, the least setup is better. Focus on driving. Just get fast at driving a stock car. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. In fact, there are cars that you don't even touch the setup on. Like a Assetto Corsa Competizione, for example, the setups are actually really, really good. The only thing I tend to fiddle around with a little bit is tire pressures, because unfortunately the aggressive setups in Assetto Corsa are a little bit they're designed for drivers a little faster than myself, and as a result, my tire pressures end up being quite low. So I do tend to have to inflate them a bit more, but that's about it, really.
That's a simple change. Or you could just go faster.
That is the eventual goal. That is what I'm working on. I actually was racing around Nürburgring earlier on, because I'm not going to race this weekend's race at Nürburgring. Ziggy, my buddy, is going to do it, and we're sharing the same game copy via Steam Share. So both of us can't race at the same time. But I was taking some laps and actually did knock about a half second off my time. So it's coming along.
Nice. That's a decent chunk of time.
Still not fast. But I may not qualify last if I were to do a race now.
Now, what are you driving? You driving a Nissan again?
Aston Martin.
Oh.
I like the Nissan, but kind of a weird story. We got offered a spot on 9 Shiza team because Travis can't race. And I'm not really sure Steven is going to be happy with that decision by the end of the season, but the two of us are planted in that car for the time being. So there you go. Running the Garage 59 Aston Martins, which Ziggy's wife was okay with as a livery, so because she's the breadwinner, so he's got to keep her happy if he wants to get himself a proper wheel.
Always keep the wife happy.
Well, he's racing with a Thrustmaster T150, so that could be interesting, because the force feedback on that wheel is nebulous at best.
I've heard some of the fastest guys out there don't even use force feedback, which blows my mind. I don't know how you can drive with zero.
I guess when it comes down to it, if you're like purely experienced in a sim racing environment, maybe that works. I do know that there are some ESR members, for example, who run very, very light wheels. But me personally, racing a real race car versus racing a sim car, the biggest difference is that your ass is not telling you anything. And I do find that definitely difficult.
Need a base shaker.
Could do, but money.
Yeah, I know. It always comes down to that.
But I guess that's what I would say to people who, because I did have a conversation with someone I was trying to get into the Academy series who took it a little offensively. No name mentioned, but there was a little bit of offense based on his real life driving experience, and I'm like, as someone who's kind of in the same boat, it's not necessarily as transferable as you probably would imagine, to be honest. There are just some sensations that are absolutely missing in most people's sim rigs anyways, as opposed to a real car.
Yeah, there's no way you can replicate it without a 6 degree of freedom motion simulator, and not many of us are running those systems.
Mm-hmm.
You do bring up another point, though. I would like to mention real quick before we close out here is wheel settings. I know Greenfield actually just worked with Stoffmeal a little bit and got a G29 set up, and this is like maybe the fourth or fifth person I've heard that had I don't want to say bad settings, but maybe not the most efficient settings on their wheel, and you're actually fighting yourself. So it might be a good idea to check with the guys at ESR. Make sure that you have your wheel set up to work as best as possible.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do that myself because not that I necessarily suspect that is a problem for me, but like I keep hearing from these other people about everything that they've changed, and I've not changed a ton. That does make me think that there's probably some optimization that could be done.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you're always going to be, again, it's personal preference. If you like a little more of this, a little less of that. But as I think speed sensitive steering might have been on or something like that. And with those type of settings,
no.
And if you don't know any better, you're not aware. You're wondering why you can't get the car to do what you want. And a setting as simple as that could.
That might explain a lot of this paddock hill bend problems.
It could have possibly actually. So we'll see next weekend. No pressure, Scott, but we would like to see you, not go off every other lap.
You're representing the black sheep, and
yeah.
I mean, Zoltan did quite well in the academy, so the bar is pretty high.
Yeah, we're a mean team as well, so we will just incessantly make fun of him in our group chat if he performs poorly.
I mean, you're not as mean as Godzilla. Stop those abusing me. So I think that's more or less it. We got just to quickly recap everything. We got Brands Hatch this Saturday. Every track is in the starter pack that you can buy from Race Room. It's a relatively cheap purchase. In fact, actually, hang on. Let me get the price right now.
Yeah, I think it's a couple dollars.
I think it is a little bit more than a couple of dollars, but it is quite affordable.
While Mike's looking, if you're new to Race Room, make sure you purchase via VRP and not cash. It's usually a better deal.
Actually, in Canada, it's a bit weird. The purchasing with cash sometimes works out better.
Oh, really?
I think it's a quirk of the exchange rate, perhaps.
Well, down here in America, we use VRP.
So the starter pack is I'm showing it as 1108 and it's 88% off, guys. So
get it.
That seems like a thing. Maybe they got their Black Friday still on or something. Because I'm not logged in, so I shouldn't be shown like getting any discount for. Yeah, all the packs are on for some discounts. So yeah, if you there's anything you were thinking about buying in Race Room,
that's cheaper than one car in iRacing.
It looks like the packs are kind of on sale. The cars themselves are not, but you want to grab any of the class packages like the GTR 3 pack, which I recommend highly, and any of the experiences, the Starter Pro or Premium pack, it looks like this is a good time to purchase. So there you go. So yeah, for the price of $11.08, that is US dollars, you can get everything you need to run the Academy, and it gives you a pretty decent selection going forward as well. I'm not going to pretend that you're not going to have to buy other stuff, but like if you're a little bit new to the Race Room crowd and you want to kind of dip your toe in, it's got GT2 car, GT3 car, the Audi TT Cup car, the NSU, DTM Modern car, DTM Classic car, WTCR, F4, and a GTO car, as well as 5 tracks. And then on top of that, you just need the BMW Cup car, which is a pretty affordable $3.87. So there you go.
So under $15 to get everything you need for the Academy.
Absolutely.
No excuses, guys. Get it.
There is no excuses. we've got spots open. We've only got 15 drivers signed up. I think we have room for there are 23 individual liveries, so without really any other way to cap it, I'm gonna say we got 23 spots.
I like it.
Make it, you know what? Actually, make it 25 because all the ballast guys are running the same livery, so that'll open it up a little bit more. So there you go. We've got room for 10 more guys. This is a great privilege, in my opinion, to have people take the time out of their busy schedules to help everyone out and make them faster drivers. And it's a real big appreciation to people like you, Paul, that make this happen.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I remember being there and, always appreciate other people helping out. So just do whatever I can.
All right. On that note, we'll call it an evening, and we'll see you guys for round 1 of Brands Hatch, where I will have hopefully another coach on the commentary gig. I'm gonna make it a point to bring at least one coach onto the commentary gig for each race this season, and hopefully we can get a little bit more of a intricate breakdown of things than myself and Byron usually get into, because we get intricate about pro wrestling, but that's about it.
You guys go off on some tangents for sure.